Morning.
Instructions to be given. That's 7 long blasts of the ship's horn. Return to your seats and await on further instructions. You are free to move around the inside and the fore and aft decks of the ship, but never forget, we are on water, and even on the calmest of days the boat may move up or down or sideways, and it's never when you'd expect it. You will find toilets at the back of this ship as you visit the bell bar. The bell bar is located below decks, downstairs, towards the rear of our ship. There is a selection of snacks with hot and cold drinks available, and you will pass the toilets on your left and right on your way down to the bell bar.
So as long as you're like constantly on the side, we'll never have. Also, why 7? Must be something history. Look outside. This is the front. That's gonna change.
Shredded wheat was the new breakfast cereal. Fingerprinting becomes possible. Aspirin was developed and X-rays discovered. Scotland was then the second richest nation on Earth. The Forth Rail Bridge, the red one, was inscribed as a World Heritage Site by the United Nations body UNESCO, so it now enjoys the same status as the Taj Mahal and the Great Wall of China. And with the ever-increasing popularity of cars, the Silver Bridge, the Forth Road Bridge, marks the 20th century. Queen Elizabeth II opened the Forth Road Bridge less than 2 years after the assassination of American President John F. Kennedy. The very same year that Philips introduced the music cassette, chemotherapy was first used to treat cancer, and Beatlemania was taking the world by storm with All My Loving and I Wanna Hold Your Hand. Now, the red Forth Rail Bridge was built at a cost of £3 million. The silver Forth Road Bridge was built for £11.5 million 74 years later. Now, here in the 21st century, a further 50 plus years later, the Queensferry Crossing is the newest addition to the scenery. A concept boat has a 21st century budget of around £1.5 billion, not million, £1.5 billion. As you pass over this island. This is Inchgarvey Island, and over time generations of children have grown up on both shores, and they've all riddled the sand through their toes searching for those coins, the buried treasure. This is an island also rich with history. Have a close look as we go by. Try to see the oldest stonework, because that's the important bit. The old stonework is all that remains of Inchgarvey Castle that was built in 1495. This island also operated as a state prison until around 1670, but it was in the mid-1600s. The English, Oliver Cromwell, he'd taken control of Edinburgh. He was advancing his troops throughout Scotland. He was aiming for Stirling Castle. He already had Tantallon Castle at Dunbar, Blackness Castle upstream, and Inchgarvey Castle here he took on the 17th day of July, 1651. At this point in the river, in the space of 2 days, over 4,000 English troops. Attack was made with heavy artillery, but U-21 slid away under the water back out to sea. The next day, a lovely summer's afternoon, the captain had been tracking St. Anne's. She was only cruising at 5 knots, far slower than we go in this ship, but this was due to having very little coal to burn. For his own reasons, Lieutenant Otto Harrising dispatched a torpedo. The torpedo penetrated Pathfinder's hull, igniting her munitions battery. 259 men lost their lives. HMS Pathfinder became the first ship ever in history.
There was both of your choices, Russia Kit Kat or a Twix. Both Kit Kat.
I'm pretty sure that as you look around, you can now understand why this area is probably the most unique and iconic in Scotland. This river and estuary, it's home to such a huge diversity of marine wildlife, but down in the seabed, a rainbow of corals, sponges and anemones, starfish, oysters and lobsters. It's a diver's paradise, and usually during our summertime, we can see puffins and gannets, the guillemots, razorbills, and eider ducks, the heaviest ducks that can actually fly. These wonderful beaches and the shoreline, these were the catalyst igniting Charles Darwin's interest of the natural world, marine biology and botany. And for Charles Darwin, this area was the starting point in his epic worldwide journey to discovering on the origin of the species. But Charles wasn't the only one. Another very famous naturalist came from a little way further downstream, in the small fishing town of Dunbar. Very probably Canadians and Americans aboard, you will know the name, John Muir. This was a man who saved many areas of natural beauty from the curse of mankind itself.
That's our main export
Such as
point for
Yosemite
Scottish crude
National Park in the
oil.
United States.
So that tanker is
He
filling
more or
up
less
with oil.
created the
Oh,
natural
really?
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's all rigged in from the pipeline in from the North Sea.
The John Muir Way.
Because the North Sea is too wild for the tankers to fill up safely. So that's why they pipeline it all here and then the tankers fill up safely.
Wow.
Scotland
So
won.
how long would that
From the Iron
pipeline be?
Force on the east
Very-
coast,
Very,
all the
very
way over to the
because
west.
there's about 50 oil rigs connected to
And so from
the
studying
pipeline
and
system.
learning from Mother Earth,
But it's quite funny. I don't know if you can read what's on the bridge. It says no smoking in red
you
letters.
just
So
can't have this movie.
Yeah.
have a little bit of humor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the midpoint of a very long journey from deep within the earth
Wow.
for Scotland's black gold, the Forties blend. It's oil. It's extracted and collected from over 50 platforms in the Forties field way out in the North Sea. It's then piped along the seabed to here. This is Hand Point. And from here at Hand Point, supertankers, they take on loads of at least 500,000 tons of crude oil every time. Scotland's oil is then exported from here to customers all over the world. Now, if you do like historic homes and castles of the aristocracy, then this area of the fort is literally a treasure trove for you. If you'd like a party or a wedding venue with a difference, take a look over to Barnbougle Castle. You'll see it, there it is, it's over on the shore, standing on its own, on the beach. An ideal getaway location. And it was. Harry Potter fans will know Professor Minerva McGonagall, the real-life actress Maggie Smith. Now she played the lead role in The Crime of Miss Jean Brodie as well. And Special Signals Unit made camp on the
There
island.
will be a beautiful abbey coming
He compiled and sent traffic radio traffic
Gonna be Abby, apparently.
to be observed by the German reconnaissance aircraft. The idea was designed to lead the Germans to suspect that we were being headed Norway, thus deflecting their attention from Normandy. But Normandy knows that these our troops were really going to.
French resistance has collapsed and the Maginot Line has been broken, destroying all French resistance. Paris is an open city.
In the Middle Ages, Innsmouth was a place for what they called compulsory retirement for those suffering from ground gore, the plague or other infectious diseases, according to an island. Innsmouth was also the scene for one of the most outrageous experiments in history. James IV, King of Scots, once sent 2 tiny babies to the island to live with a woman who could not speak. Then, isolated from the rest of the world, the experiment was to ascertain which language the infants would grow up to speak. King James thought that he would discover the original language, or language of the gods, but according to ancient accounts, the infants did not ever speak.
Is
And all the other buildings you see are all leftovers of the different world wars.
Oh,
The bunkers and the
really?
content. Remember, this river was the main entrance to Edinburgh and the Royal Naval Dockyards,
Right.
so all the islands have been fortified.
Right.
Right.
Right, okay. Yeah. that
There's
makes
actually a man-made tunnel cut through the hill to shelter from bombing raids and things like that.
Nowadays at Easter,
But,
Inchcolm Island is a truly wonderful place to visit.
Great Britain
Just
had
to look at
the
it. A truly remarkable place of
territorial
history
arm
going back
in those
time.
days. It
Right.
was some kind of a volunteer army,
Oh, okay.
and they
Yeah.
trained on the island blowing up things. So there's not too much left over for them. Luckily they left the Abbey
Yeah,
alone.
exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
The main feature here, of course, is the magnificent Augustinian Abbey, Scotland's most complete example of a monastic house. In former times, and perhaps partly due to its dedication to Columba, the island was nicknamed Iona of the East. The well-preserved abbey and the ruins of the 9th century hermit cell do attract visitors to the island, and some of the visitors even get married here. They say that this island has been used in the past by hermits and also as a prison. But Inchcolm, throughout the centuries, is another of the Forth Islands that became fortified to prevent the various docks further upriver from being attacked. Can you see the red and white lighthouse out on the water, the Oxcars Light? This beacon was another of the hundreds built by Scotland's famous lighthouse family, the Stephensons, and this one built in 1886 for the Northern Lighthouse Board. But of course, you'll probably all know the famous grandson of the Stephenson family. The author of Treasure Island, Robert Louis, remains from the days when the lighthouse keepers on the islands, they burned whale oil in their lamps, and the inherent issue was burns to their hands or arms when they lit the whale oil. Tree mallow is a plant that's taken over all of the islands. It's wild, but it's a natural remedy to heal burns when it's made into ointment. That's why it was welcomed onto the islands in the first place. Nowadays, though, it's taken over so much that it's going into the burrows where the puffins live. So every year, Operation Tree Mallow happens, and that's when volunteers visit all of the islands and they clear the burrows for the next breeding season.
Danny Francis had loads of them in there.
call them the Lighthouse family because it was Robert Louis Stevenson's father and uncle who built the vast majority of the lighthouses around Britain's coastline, including the Oxcars Light. Today we do have many offshore wind farms, oil facilities, and these are all places that need indicators such as lighthouses and beacons for safety at sea. Now you would think that the government would pay for all the lighthouses, but that's not actually the case. It's a strange thing. What we do have is the General Lighthouse Fund, and it gets its money by charging a levy to every ship that enters UK waters. Currently the charge stands at 37.5 pence per net ton of the ship. Now that doesn't sound too drastic, but to give you the idea, if we use a cruise liner as a model, every time a cruise liner visits the UK, it has to pay £15,000 for every trip. We've already been to Howden Point, the oil terminal. But another important export facility over on the shoreline, Rayfoot Marine Terminal. This time, not oil, but propane, ethylene, natural gas and
Seal somewhere or other, but. Oops, there we go.
The 5th of November 1980. Campania was anchored at the far side of Edgecombe Island, actually. A windy squall moved into the river, and it caused her to drag her anchor. She ran into some other Navy vessels, and the end result? Well, she now lies in peace down on the seabed, just a bit back from the other side of Edgecombe, towards Brent Island. Campania has now been down there around 100 years.
Scotland's National Aquarium for all professionals. Deep sea wildlife connoisseur. Easy to get to. Ask the crew or suggest information for details.
This way, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Not as up and down.
Yeah, maybe on the wind. I don't know where the wind.
I don't know. It's going to the right, but
yeah.
not very much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the flags.
Yeah, the flags are cool, aren't they? Yeah.
in an attempt to build a tunnel underneath the river to make a crossing. They were abandoned, but in the year 1850, an engineer built the world's first floating railway line further out, just past Edgecombe Island, linking up the two mainlands. His name, Thomas Botch. He built the floating railway ferry, but more importantly, he was the designer of the very first Forth Rail Bridge. And I say the first because there are actually two Forth Rail bridges. Whilst building this bridge in 1879, all of a sudden work was ordered to stop. But why? Well, because Botch had previously built the railway bridge over the River Tay. On the 28th of December that year, 1879, there was a ferocious storm. As the Edinburgh steam train was going over the Tay Bridge, the bridge collapsed. The train fell into the river. All 75 passengers were killed. The worst rail disaster in Scottish history. Botch was disgraced. The establishment no longer trusted his designs. In the aftermath of this disaster, the requirements for a bridge over the Forth were reassessed. The railway needed to cross the Forth. Designers Sir John Fowler and Benjamin Baker came up with the cantilever arrangement that we see now. What resulted was a marvel of Victorian engineering and a span so massively overbuilt that it appeared to lose even the heaviest wind. To this day, we have a saying in the English language that occurred because of the Tay Rail disaster. If you make a bad job of something, you would say, I made a right old botch of that, a botch job. The rail bridge was finally completed on the 4th of March 1890, when His Royal Highness Edward, Prince of Wales, tapped into place the traditional Golden Rivet, the last rivet of over 7.5 million rivets used. 57 men lost their lives building the Forth Rail Bridge. Men who had come from all corners of the world, Canada, America, Poland, and Hungary. It was the largest civilization of hard back-breaking labor, and machines. 27 men, no computers or laser theodolites in those days. But when they broke through, they were actually only 2 inches out. Prior to deciding to build the latest crossing, the Cable Stay Bridge, they did once again look at tunnels, both bored tunnels and reverse tube tunnels. However, they predicted that the bridge would cost several million pounds less. And now, we know they were right. What did they cost to build? Now obviously loads of money, but there's a curious coincidence. The Red Forth Rail Bridge cost £3 million in 1890. So the Forth Road Bridge cost £11.5 million 74 years later. And now, here in the 21st century, a further 50 plus years later, the Queensferry crossing cost £1.5 billion. But when you work the relative values back in time, all the bridges cost pretty much the same, strangely enough. The Red Forth Rail Bridge was recently inscribed as a World Heritage Site, so it now enjoys the very same status as the Taj Mahal and the Great Wall of China. 7 years of construction, 7,000 rivets, 57 deaths, built before cars and aircraft existed during the reign of Queen Victoria. It opened in 1890. Around the same time, Rudolf Diesel invented the diesel engine, fingerprinting became possible, aspirin was developed, and X-rays discovered. Scotland was then the second richest nation on Earth. This bridge is massively over-engineered using cantilevers. If it rains, she gets 100 tons heavier. If the sun shines on her, she stretches more than 7 meters. And she's 50 feet taller than Big Ben. And riggers, as they were called, riggers, they came from all around the world to build this bridge. They started work at 4 every morning. Riveting was the main job here, working in teams. The youngest member would be the rivet boy, and he would usually be 13 or 14 years old. His job was to heat the rivets until they were poker red hot, and using long-handled tongs he would then toss each rivet to his team higher up. It was caught, placed in the hole, and hammered home. It was a brutal, dangerous, dirty, cold, miserable job, and as regards money, well, the teams were paid by the number of rivets. Now with the ever-increasing popularity of cars, however, it's now on light duty, so it's just buses, taxis and pedestrians.
Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, look.
We are now approaching Versailles Royal Naval Dockyard. You see the large pump crane, the Goliath crane, the same height as Niagara Falls, they say. This dockyard is in the Kingdom of Fife. Over the hill, just a few miles north, lies the historic town of Dunfermline. Until the 1700s, the capital of Scotland and also the birthplace to a man. A name you will probably all know, Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world at the time. He built a vast wealth through the American steel industry and the expansion of railroads in the US and Canada. He returned his wealth to the people of the world by providing libraries for learning, leisure centres for well-being, theatres and cinemas for entertainment. The pop star Madonna was buried in one of Carnegie's homes, Skibo Castle, here in Scotland. But during the last 18 years of his life, he gave away almost 90% of his fortune. Now today, his wealth would rank him alongside Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook fame, and that's according to the Forbes Rich list. The dockyard is now a vast operation ranging from dismantling nuclear submarines, that you can see on Google Earth, to the refitting or building of new Navy vessels. In the early 1900s, as the workforce here grew, there just wasn't enough housing. So again, just over the brow of the hill, a designer named Ebenezer Howard built our new town, Versailles Garden City. Combine the green peacefulness of the countryside and all the convenience of city living. In fact, a totally self-sufficient place. Here, the Garden City movement was born. His designs became the blueprint for many towns around the world, including Walt Disney's Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. Ebenezer Howard is a name you've probably never come across. Our British visitors aboard today meet his great-granddaughter. She is actress Emma Stubbs. Take a look at the latest addition to the Forth, the new bridge, the Queensferry crossing. The government invested £1.35 billion into this project, purely because the existing Forth Road Bridge is not coping too well these days, both in health and with modern-day traffic volumes. And that's an awful lot of money. However, the cost of the Red Rail Bridge in 1890 is the equivalent today, £1.3 billion. So actually, they are both very similar in cost. This new bridge is 2.7 kilometers long, just marginally longer than the old bridge. It's actually the longest three-tower cable-stayed bridge in the world, and also by far the largest to feature cables which cross mid-span. This innovative design provides extra strength and stiffness, allowing the towers and the deck to be more slender and elegant. And I'm sure you'll agree that the Queensferry crossing is a rather This bridge features a dehumidification system to reduce moisture that causes corrosion. Now that's a valuable lesson learned from the failure of the cables on the old bridge. His plan was to build 4 good piers along the seafront of South Queensferry and 3 across the water at North Queensferry. But why so many piers? Well, boats, which at that time were all powered by the wind, they would be able to cross the river in a with the new technology of the future. The very first steamship went into service here in 1821 and was named Queen Margaret, who had herself a ferry service here in 1070 to give free passage to pilgrims travelling to the holy sites of Dunfermline and St Andrews. And the paddle ship era did come to an end, eventually in 1964, with Queen Elizabeth II aboard the very final sailing as she opened the Falls Road Bridge.
Barracks.
Oh, right.
Over Rosyth.
Yeah.
And they are on the list for years now to change into apartments.
Oh, right.
I haven't seen anything happen yet.
No, good in a way. Yeah.
I've only been here for 30 years.
Yeah.
I can still remember that black building with green windows was the highest building in South Queensferry.
Wow.
Oh, look at it now. That's by the way the control center for all the bridges. That's where all the cameras are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You'll need to know, won't they?
In the late 1800s, a popular paddle steam service from Mount Island across to Edinburgh was taking so much revenue
Well,
from
that
the
guy's
Prince
quite
Freight
nice.
closing here.
It's only about 50
And the
minutes walk
trustees
from
of
where
this
we are.
Prince Ferry
And there's
passage
a Canadian
got into a
restaurant.
lot of
There's
debt. They've got large watch wells with the Mount Island ships that directly
Oh, right, like it there.
and
So,
the
yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Oh, that's worth it.
Engineered by
Yeah.
Thomas
That's a
Bolt.
nice area to hang
Yeah.
out.
Port Edgar is a name of the young marina, overlooking the shore.
I've never been back.
North British Railways extended their lines right into Port Edgar Pier to run right up to the
Would
boats,
you be
and
interested
also
in
across on the North
in a
Coast
houseboat?
Ferry as well.
You have a boat for sale.
was designed as a
You just have to turn it into a house.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Good price for you, right?
It's a thought. It's a
Or
thought.
then HMS Columbine serviced torpedo boat destroyers for the First World War and was a minesweeper in the Second World War, but by then was named HMS
Cool.
Columbine.
That's worth thinking about.
Yeah,
During the Great
yeah.
Depression of the
Cheaper.
1930s, the barracks were used as
It'd be
multi-camp
cheaper.
accommodation
It would,
for
yeah.
families.
It's tempting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is tempting, I must admit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trying
yeah.
to imagine the scene here
Not a bad place to live, is it?
No, it really isn't. No. We might.
Yeah,
Okay.
just need to
Let's go back in
Stay
time to
down.
the unusual and historical stories that hopefully you will enjoy. So, I'm planting the seed with you. Keep an eye on our Facebook page, and you will
Where
find
is it?
full details at forcetourism.com.
Oh, yeah.